otherwise known as the Mushroom Man, and he did say I could introduce him that way. But he's so much more than just the Mushroom Man. Alan is an author and educator specializing in hunter-gatherer culture. He is the founding CEO of No Taste Like Home, the largest foraging education company in the world. He has appeared in over 300 publications, including a variety of major media. And his mother would like you to know that he went to Princeton. Alan?
Thank you. All right, well, I'm excited to be here. Thanks for coming. I've just flown in from Miami, where I'm from, and I'm going to give you some news, and I don't want you to take it personally. It's not a guilt trip, but I flew up just for this talk, and I was really struggling to leave sunny Florida, where I was swimming every day, and I was in shorts every day, and I literally was cutting open coconuts yesterday in a frantic, attempt to get the last of my foraging before I had to leave. This morning I got a text from several members of my family. My father fell this morning. He's 84 and he's in the hospital right now. And it makes me wonder, like this happened as soon as I left. I've been there a month. And so it's rather emotional for me. I'm still processing that. And I just want this talk to be important enough to have left for it. So I'm going to share with you, I think it was, whoever introduced me? I've learned that foraging means a lot more than just going and having a shopping spree in the woods. There's some deeply significant things that how it can change your life, and I would even argue it could save the world. So today could be pretty intense of a talk, and I'm going to put up a bunch of questions that you could ask me in the course of this. And I have show and tell. I could show you pictures and stuff. And you can go on a tour with us and you can learn all the details about foraging. And for 30 years I've learned those. But eventually I learned that it's not the stuff that matters. It's what you can learn from it. So today I'm going to hopefully share what I've learned from doing this. And I've learned a lot about how to deal with stuff like what's going on with my parents, and just come to understand why I'm here. Why are we here? And what can we do to take us out of this mess that we're in, where everybody's killing each other, right? And addicted to this, and addicted to everything else. I think foraging can answer all these things, because we live in civilization, right? And what did civilization start with?
Hunter-gatherer.
Right. So human beings have been around anywhere for 200 to 300,000 years, and for 99% of that time we foraged. So it wasn't just a thing we do. It's what being human means. And only in 10,000 years have we been growing food. And in that time, some people call it the worst mistake human beings have ever done, because it's led to war, sexism, racism, disease of civilization. If any of you are in medicine, that's a term. The top 10 things that kill us practically didn't exist before civilization. Heart disease, cancer, diabetes. So,
Gun violence.
yeah. And you ask, what is the root of violence, and what is the real difference between foraging and civilization? And what I would argue, the basic difference.
Money.
Huh?
Money.
Right, well, money is the tool for us to sort of legally screw each other over, right? But what is the motivation that drives that? What is the main difference between hunter-gatherers, which is another word for foragers, and civilized people?
Settlement.
Power. Owning land.
Yeah, those sound like the symptoms. But what is the cause? What is the attitude? This is the reason my dad fell today, because, and I'm not going to give it away yet, but has anyone ever watched an old movie called The Gods Must Be Crazy?
Yes.
Very fun and funny, but it starts off really accurately portraying hunter-gatherers. And what is the whole plot of the movie? Do you remember what happens?
A bottle of Coke falls from the plane.
A guy in a plane litters a Coke bottle, and these hunter-gatherers that still exist, or existed at least in the Sahara, called the Kung, or the sand, they find this Coke bottle, and they start fighting over it, because they each want to use it for different things, because you can actually use it, it's a tool, glass doesn't exist there, and they use it for all sorts of things, and then they decide that this thing's evil, we need to get rid of it, and they encounter civilization. But the point is they shared everything. Right? Today we don't share everything. That's why money lets us try to get everything for ourselves. And my dad has no friends, and if he's going to have anyone watching him so he doesn't fall, he'd have to pay for it. He's too cheap to pay for it, and so he fell because he didn't have someone living there 24/7 like I told him to have. Now, if we were hunter-gatherers, you would have someone, you would have your kids and your grandkids around you 24/7. We wouldn't be all over the country, all over the world. You see? So this is why it matters. It really matters that we look at this. It's not just about what you eat, it's about how do you see yourself? Are you part of a tribe, or are you like alone against the world? If you get a bunch of money, then you get power. You see on the news what people like that do to our world. We don't trust. Pretty crazy, huh? Foraging is about trusting. So I can go out right now and I could find my food. So I'm not afraid. I met people for a meeting once at Earth Fair, you all probably know. We were going to eat at the deli, and so it was shut down, the power was out. And this was years before, the storm or whatever, and they were like, what do we do? And I said, I know what I'll do. I'll just go forage. Actually, in that parking lot at Westgate, there's a bunch of, you may know Kuza dogwood. You may plant it decoratively. Did you know you could eat the Kuza berries? So if the time of year is right, you can eat those red berries, yeah. And they'll be in my slideshow. So someone came up, I won't say who, and he looked at this and said, why didn't you bring any edible mushrooms for us?
Yes.
And I said, well, then I have to share.
You don't like to share.
And I was joking. I mean, I've learned that it's as maybe you've learned with time, the more you share, the more it comes back to you. And it's just early. So mushrooms haven't started yet. Okay, morels will start in the next few weeks. And then we'll have, a series of mushrooms, and there's hundreds of kinds here. But if we get, the expression, getting into the weeds. So if I start talking to you about details about this and that mushroom, this and that edible plant, then we get in the weeds. But I just want you to remember, the lesson in here is learning to trust life, including other people, which allows you to share. And hopefully if you start foraging, and if you have already, maybe you've had this experience of not being afraid. So some of us, are religious, but that has taught me more than all my religious upbringing, was going outside and experiencing providence or grace. That picture of Michelangelo that does with God and Adam, and they're about to touch each other. Like when I had this thing, it was only a year or two ago. I was picking fruit from a tree, and I felt like that connection was made. And so I'm writing a book, and now it's kind of funny, but there's a mushroom, and God's handing Adam a mushroom. But it feels like it's like the thing that fills that circuit is the wild food, because that's God's garden. Like we don't plant that, We're fed. That's what the birds, lilies of the field, passage is about. Like we don't have to worry. There's enough for everyone, even 8 billion people. It's actually enough for that many people, even now. So there's nothing to worry about. Any questions on that one?
Have you seen the Alone TV program where they have to survive all on their own wits and eating everything? That makes me think of foraging.
Yeah, that's right. Most people think about it. It's awful in some way. I mean, I've been invited to be on Naked and Afraid, on Survivor, and I don't even know if Alone has contacted us, because my manager doesn't even tell me, because I don't want to go on them. Because those shows are all about you being afraid for those people, thinking nature's difficult, and scary. But that's just for TV, It's not hard. Certainly not. It's easier to survive in the city than it is out in the woods. There's so much food, You're a gardener, so what's your number one problem is you clear something, all these weeds come up. I had them for breakfast. Do you know lamia, dead nettle, or purple archangel? It's probably the #1 weed everywhere. It's great. It's like spinach. And right now, like, there's carpets of it everywhere. I could put up enough for a year. Even now, it's the first thing to come up. It's a type of mint, and maybe it'll be in here. Henbit. It's even tastier than that. Chickweed. Some of you probably hate these things. Right? And you're like shooting the messenger. It's like, I had people once, they said, what was it? They brought me, it's a long time ago, to see a mushroom on their stump after a talk, and it had died back. I figured out it was reishi. And then they were like, oh, why don't you come inside, have a drink? The house smelled like mothballs. And some of you are going, why? Because mothballs are paradichlorobenzene, which is a great way to give yourself cancer. But they didn't want bugs in there, eating their woolens. And the funny thing is, I think the reishi it doesn't make sense because if they brought me to see it, I think they killed it thinking it was killing their tree. It turns out reishi is one of the best cures for cancer. So the thing that would have cured them, they got rid of, and they were causing it inside their house was themselves. So this is what we do. All these weeds we could eat, they're also medicine. So when I said, okay, lady said, well, these aren't edible. They are sort of. Just like a bay leaf, you get flavor, you simmer this, and you drink the water. Like root beer. You know what root beer is made from originally?
Sassafras.
And what part of sassafras? That's why it's called root beer. Okay. A lot of people don't even realize it's called root beer. So you can make like root beer out of mushrooms. And I'll show you a special one I'm hiding to surprise you with later that I also brought that makes a chocolate-flavored drink. And I served it on Bizarre Foods with Andrew Zimmer. We tried to make like an ice cream out of it. Yeah. Did I answer any questions so far? Yeah, you asked about alone. Yeah, right. We're not alone. That's the thing. People say, oh, how do you prepare, for being stuck in the woods or something? The #1 thing, take someone with you. Have friends. If I was like dropped off in nowhere and I was starving, I would look for people. I wouldn't just try to survive on my own. No, hunter-gatherers don't do that. That's not what's smart. I did go to Princeton, and people say you must be smart. I was stupid to go to Princeton. Because I jumped through hoops. How many of you spend half your lives like doing what you were supposed to and like making it? And you were just doing what your parents wanted you to do. The smart people don't go to school. They just skip that. How many famous people have just a junior high maybe education? It's not dropping out. It's leaving for something better. All right. So you might have plenty of questions. If you don't, what we're about to do is I'm going to give you the opportunity to give me a hard time. If you can't think of your own questions, here are 42 of that people have asked me over and over again over the years. And
The bracket's on the back side of the screen.
yeah, but this is supposed to make it lock like it did 10 minutes ago. All right. I guess that's to go all the way down before you. See, even Princeton guy couldn't figure it out. All right, that. Need the lamp. Thanks. Should take a few seconds. And it's coming. So, oh boy. Yes, great. Take me over to that. Okay, good. All right, I hope you can read it because that's the best we can do. All right, now you call out the numbers of the questions you want answered today.
5.
I will answer them all.
I love it.
40.
And you ask questions that you want.
3. 10.
Okay.
20.
25. 16.
26.
Bingo. Okay.
18.
Okay.
Wow, 31.
29. All of them.
Exactly.
I could do a speed round and see if I could do them all.
Number 11.
Look, any of these that I don't get around to, you can just call me up. I will talk to you on the phone for free.
Well, 40.
Even,
40.
and if you're, yes, I got that.
42.
And they're,
From outer space.
the funny thing is, that was the first one I got asked. 42. My last time I did this. Okay, well, you're welcome. Of course, you can always call out another one, but let me get started. We have a lot of questions to answer. And I guess I'll leave that on for now, because otherwise I'm not going to remember what these are. But let's do them in order, okay? And then maybe I'll try to be a little brief, and I can come back to it if I can give you enough of an answer. This is a tough one, actually. How did you first get into foraging? I'm from Miami, and down there, it isn't really woods. But we used to go to the beach, and back then, in the early 70s, the beach was alive. There were animals living there. There were baby lobsters, baby octopus, baby stingrays. It's so cute, tiny versions of things. And sadly, we would collect a lot of these. We'd collect live shells, shells with the mollusk inside. And you could eat them, like conch fritters. I don't think we would eat them. You know, we'd kill the thing and, like, keep the shell. And sand dollars and stuff. So we were collecting free things. Now, what my parents don't like me saying is, I think more of a reason is we also went to garage sales and always like getting, it's basically stuff for free. It's like a bargain, you know? It's a similar feeling. It's an opportunivore is what I call it. So I think I learned to spot something cheap or something free, you know? And I actually just got a pinball machine. And I'm only going to get a 500-pound pinball machine up here, but it was a bargain, so I bought it. And got it for $200. I had to put $500 in. Now it's worth $2,500. But I have to drive down, rent a truck, and bring it back up. Because I also bought 2 big pieces of furniture, one with curly maple face, you know, tiger maple. Gorgeous piece. $80. A sideboard. For a sideboard. It's crazy. How could you say no to that? So that's why I'm a forager, because I spot opportunity, and I do it with other things. Like when you all ask me questions, like I'm writing them down. Like the stories are valuable too. And now I'm writing a book, and so I forage stories and I put them together too. You see? So it's being aware of things that are just there for free. And that's something that can give you sort of faith that, you know, you go down the street and you're provided for when you least expect it, you know? It's not just food. In college, the second part of it, the obvious part, is that I hiked for the first time and I cooked for the first time in college. Best thing I learned at Princeton was not academics. It was cooking and hiking. And I put those together, along with having studied Taoism, which was early Buddhism, about being natural. I also studied early Marxism. And communism came from studying hunter-gatherers who shared everything. The problem is they turned it into this big-scale thing that they force people to do. And foragers don't force people to share. They do it because they feel like doing it. That's different. You know. So that's the fast answer. Is that clear on that one? 5, right? Next. Have you? Oh, I can't. Let's go. Let's get back to that one. You know, sometimes they say, have you ever made a mistake and eaten the wrong thing? And you know what I like to say is, yeah, I did it for the first 20 years of my life. I ate normal food. So I like to say, if you forage, you might get sick. If you don't eat wild food, I guarantee you will get sick.
Yeah.
Because for 300,000 years, that's what we ate. That's what we're designed to eat. That's what a paleo diet means. You know, that's what we evolved. You eat what we evolved to eat. Even organic food in the store, even those vegetables, to me, that's candy. Okay, because you don't see broccoli like growing, you know, in the woods. You do see creasy greens. Everyone know those? So related to broccoli, they're in my yard right now. So I'm going to have me some creasy greens tonight. Probably 10 to 50 times more nutritious than the stuff in the store. Definitely that much more. Have I ever poisoned anyone? Sure. Sometimes you don't know. I'm going to think of two. I'm going to think of two occasions that were obvious. And I've eaten deadly things many times before. I just didn't eat enough to kill me. And whatever doesn't kill you
Makes you stronger.
that's right. All right, so one time, this story's in my book, and anyone who promises to read it can read it now and give me your feedback, because I need beta testers. It's a whole chapter. It's not a whole chapter. It's a section on this. We ate what's called the green spored parasol, but the better name for it is the gut wrencher. That's what it does. 4 of us ate it. All I got was like a little bit kind of nauseous. One had headaches. One was like hugging the toilet all night. And that was my host for teaching that the next day.
Oh my God.
And she let me go on with it and stuff because it was a perfect storm. We ate 4 mushrooms. I think 4 of these. 3 were the right mushroom. 1 was the wrong one. And they did look very similar. Ever since I've learned how to tell, it's very easy to tell the difference. But this was 25 years ago. I mean, I wouldn't say I was just starting. I mean, I was already teaching. But I brought it to a Duke lab scientist. He's now at, I think, University of Michigan, mycologist. And he had to put it on the microscope. And I was sitting there with him for 25 minutes, no, more, before he decided, I think it's the poisonous one. It was very hard for him to tell. Now I can tell just from a glance. I mean, you could test me. It's so obvious. There's certain things you can see.
Will you
But-
teach us that?
No. Because I'll tell you an even easier way. That's the dumb way, what you're asking for. Because it's dumb to be like the show Alone and try to do this yourself. You know the smart way to find out which is which?
Taste it.
No. It's a 3-letter word, and I have a slide for it. And let's see if I can pull this up. Come on. Is it this one? No. I tried to make this easy. Obviously, I haven't. Let me go through. So it's a 3-letter word. It's a verb. And it's what you do. It's not eat. If you're not sure that there it is, what you have is edible. Any other guesses? I already heard that one. Try is not it. Uh-huh. Okay. So I've heard also run, die, and my favorite, 911. which is similar to the right answer, which is ask. Okay? You're not alone. Okay? You ask someone. We have this whole civilization about doing things on your own so that you can be sold books and you can pay experts. But any other country, ever been to Europe, Eastern Europe, you could ask anyone on the street and they know their mushrooms. Czechoslovakia, Russia, Poland, Lithuania, Spain, southern France, in particular. I mean, there's just on and on. Germany. We're like the most ignorant country when it comes to this. And so you pay people like me. This is what I benefit from your ignorance. So ask. All right. What's the other time that it happened? What was it? Oh yeah, right. I had a family. It was a family of doctors. They went to Zambra. Remember, Zambra with. It's still around, is it? Yeah. And I gave them what's called the friendship mushroom, maybe because it tests your friendship. But they all got diarrhea that night. And this is the funny thing. I swear to you, this is true. I won't eat that mushroom anymore because I've gotten sick from it. We still serve it on our tours. Our guides refused. I told them you shouldn't serve it. They refused to not serve it because sometimes it's the only one we have. And it says edible in every single book.
And you have diarrhea.
Yeah.
That's sweet. That's sweet.
It's considered edible. You will not, I don't know if you have a mushroom book, we could pull it up right now. Armillaria tubescens, considered not perfectly edible because some people get sick. You all know daylilies coming up right now, right? Daylilies is technically edible. It makes me sick. It might make you sick. If you cook it, it certainly helps. Now, Zambra might have undercooked the mushroom, and that would explain it, because you have to cook that one. But I didn't undercook mine, and I still got, I get the runs from it. Okay, so you know what else is poisonous? Chocolate, shrimp, What else do we get? Nuts. They still serve them in restaurants, okay? Some people are allergic. So nothing is perfectly safe, Wheat, yeah. I don't eat wheat either. It actually makes me sick. So, again, wheat is civilized food. You don't have that in paleo people. Next number, 10. What about dog pee? I say dog pee washes off, but GMOs don't wash off. So we worry about the things we can see. We have to worry about what we can't see. All right? My father is in the hospital now. Why? Because he was on trazodone and Zoloft, which is loperamide. Yeah. So he trusts the drugs. But for all his life, he didn't trust the herbs and stuff that I gave him. And that's why he woke up dizzy and fell from that stuff that makes you too sleepy. Especially the benzos. I mean, like Whitney Houston, a bunch of people, you can OD on benzos and die. So what do you trust? Just again, the dog pee, it just washes off. So you rinse the stuff. Okay?
Exactly.
And that's as much of an answer, as I have for you. Next. 10. We did 10. 11. Is our best time of year? What's the highlight of each season? Well, there is a highlight in every season. There's stuff out now. We go out all year round, my company. And what you learn by foraging is that there is no best. Okay? All times are good times for different things. Dead of winter, you go to Florida, and I can't show you how many sapodillas I have dehydrated to bring back. The best breakfast food I've ever had. I put it in cereal. It dries up crispy, no additives at all, no added sugar. It's a tropical fruit. And I picked hundreds of them in the past month. So you migrate. That's what hunter-gatherers used to do. Up here, every time of year there's something. In the winter, I get meat. I get roadkill.
Oh,
Yes.
What's your favorite roadkill?
Bear.
Aren't you afraid of rabies?
Oh, she said, aren't I afraid of rabies? This is a funny story. So I was going to give blood, and I'm answering the questionnaire. And she's like, have you gotten someone's blood on you recently? Well, I had just cut up a raccoon. And I got raccoon blood on me, and I was wondering, do I say yes or no? And I'm sitting there frantically researching, like, what can you get? Can you get rabies from raccoon blood? And I think I already knew. I think it was a tiny bit. I may not have researched it. You don't get it from the blood. You get it from the saliva or the urine. You don't get rabies from blood. Plus, you just wear gloves. And also, it doesn't matter what that animal has. If you cook it, you're safe. I've eaten deadly tularemia on a rabbit, which would kill me raw. And it's fine.
Is raccoon good?
Yeah, if it depends. Anything can be, this is the point of this question, anything can be good or bad. Old raccoon's not very good. Young raccoon is really good.
Because I tried opossum, and opossum is not good.
You gotta season it right.
I've had possum.
I don't like it.
I took possum to the chef at Jargon. I think we ate it at Jargon. It's is it Stephen Goff, who was also originally at Zambra, well, after Adam, and he loves weird stuff. I not only brought him a possum. You're gonna hate. I don't know if you're gonna hate me for this, but at least you'll remember me. I got a possum off the road. The babies were still alive. I called 5 rescue places. They said none of them said they have no hair on the babies. They're not going to make it. So I killed the babies and gave it to him, and he cooked them up. Yeah,
Babies.
the babies. And
They're not strong.
I couldn't eat the babies. It was too weird for even me.
Oh.
But I ate the mom, and some of the pieces of the I sat down for the restaurant. My piece tasted terrible. Everyone else, this is awesome. And it turns out different pieces on the possum, some tasted terrible, and some tasted great. And I think it's because part of it was on the road and had the guts touching it, and it was heated up with the gut smell soaking in. And that's the piece I got. So now nobody's walked out yet, but I bet you're gonna be complaining later. See, you all think, oh my God, that's disgusting. But I bet every one of you is going to go home tonight and eat food that I wouldn't touch if you paid me. Y'all probably shop non-organic food, and those animals are treated worse than like that wild one that lived a wild, healthy life on the road and bam, got killed. Yours is grown in a cage this big and fed antibiotics, and you are what you eat. So, don't say I'm like crazy. I was forced to eat at a cheesecake factory. With the one time in a month I ate out with my uncle. This was the one time I saw him, and I was like, okay, I'll survive a hamburger at Cheesecake Factory. That's how strict I am. Not what I eat. All right. Still interested in what I have to say? So, if you want, simple answer, okay? You want the most variety of mushrooms? July through September. You want the most variety of edible plants? April, okay? You want morels? You also have to do April.
You can die if you eat morel raw.
Right. So some things are edible, but only edible cooked.
Yeah.
So you have to know how to prepare the thing. Also, what part? Some things have the part is edible. And not the other part. Elder flower, of course. The rest of the tree is toxic, it's full of cyanide. But I just learned you can eat the leaves if you boil them, and it's one of the best COVID remedies.
Oh.
And antiviral in general. Is the leaf of a tree. It was right in my yard the whole time that I had COVID, and I didn't know until I had already gotten it. But it helps prevent it too. It's a long answer for this, and if I had time, I'd go through the different mushroom. Let me see if I can do it in my head. I would say, coming up now, chickweed, stinging nettle would be the first highlights of each season, and then morels. And then we get into chicken of the woods will come out in June.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah. July, chanterelles will come out. August, you get boletes, we don't have porcini. You may have heard of cep or king bolete. We have similar ones. You also get something called leatherback you probably haven't heard of. Very common and very good. And then in, September, you have honey mushrooms.
Honey mushroom.
Mm-hmm.
You get me sick.
Right. Honey mushroom and friendship mushroom are almost the same thing.
I get
And
sick.
you get sick from them. See, honey mushroom, I used to sell hundreds to restaurants.
They are good. They are good. But
Yeah. Even though some people get sick, you have to cook them well.
Even so.
And even then, maybe some people can't tolerate it. But again, that's true of a lot of things. You go into October, hen of the woods or maitake.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the mushrooms. But for plants, then it's the fall. Things fall. Nuts fall. You have acorns, black walnut, hickory nut, which tastes like pecan. Better than pecans, like pecan pie with hickory nuts. And for most people, that's just trash in their yard. Black walnuts, you probably hate them,
Yeah, they are good.
Right, but you can bring those in. They'll process, they'll press oil, and black walnut oil for a finishing oil is pretty awesome. So I probably skipped a number of things, but lamb's quarter green is good and amaranth green, purslane in the middle, the hot season.
Cleome leaves? Cleome leaves?
I don't know. I
They're
don't know.
wonderful, like a spinach.
Yeah,
Tastes like a spinach.
cleome, the sticky one that looks like kind of like
Well, yeah. it's
like
sticky.
marijuana looking. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
A pretty pink or white.
Yeah. And sticky, I think. Yeah, I didn't know that. See, I'm always learning. I only know about 600 edibles here, and there are many more.
Daylily blossoms.
Mhm.
Delicious.
Yeah.
Dandelion.
French
That
fries.
everybody. throws
Dandelion.
away. Dandelion is
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah, it's amazing. We're sitting in the most biodiverse region in the temperate world. I mean, if anything, maybe southern China is tied with us, but they've probably polluted the heck out of it since that tie in 1991. So you're probably sitting in the best place outside of the tropics you could possibly forage. You know, is right here. That's why this question's hard to answer. There's so many good things here all the time.
Alan,
Yes,
the lamium,
Yeah.
some people call it,
Yeah.
a lot of us have that, so what do you do with it?
you don't have to cook it. It's a mint, so just like mint. It's not going to taste very minty, but so is oregano. It's not minty, you know.
Toss it in a salad.
Yeah, but I don't like it raw. To be honest, it smells like mildew to me. Really unpleasant raw. But once you cook it, that smell goes away and it tastes like spinach. And I think henbit tastes even better. It's closely related. And then when it goes to seed, if you ever had chia seed, the seed is very similar to chia seed. Now, what I like to do when I have a ton of it is chop it up and you can mix it with egg and you make fritters. So it's like a little pancake. It's incredibly nutritious. And I actually use sour cream and maple syrup, and I eat them like pancakes. And you could put flour or not. You know, it's up to you. It doesn't always need that binder. The egg will do it. That's what I do with lamium. You could do a spanakopita, which means spinach pita, but you can do it with nettles. You can do it with any green you want. Yeah.
Why is it called dead nettle then?
Because it looks, you tell me if I'm wrong, if somebody knows. I believe it's because it looks like stinging nettle as if frost has hit it and the leaves are fallen and it's gotten more pale. So it looks like nettle that's like dying, like it's unhealthy because it's a kind of a pale green. Yeah. 16. Don't a lot of edible lettuce have toxic lookalikes? You know, cabbage and iceberg lettuce. Can you tell the difference?
Yeah.
Yes?
Yeah. How can you tell?
They look the same.
Totally different.
They don't look the same.
You're like, oh no, they're different, right? You're different. They're very similar looking to someone who's not familiar with them. And that's the key word. The answer to this question is one word: familiarity. There is no answer. Well, if the question was, how can you tell the difference? The answer would be familiarity. Would be, how do you recognize your mom? You just do. You don't think about it. So, no, everything has a toxic lookalike, and nothing does, depending how familiar you are. It's that simple. You don't have to think about it, and it's not. If it was so dangerous, we'd be extinct by now. What do toddlers do if you let them outside? Put everything in their mouths. Wouldn't we be dead if that was so dangerous? Or does that turn off if you... Oh, okay. This went to sleep. Okay, so that's a relative question, and you learn the difference. We all drive, right? Isn't driving dangerous?
Yes.
We learn how to do it. It's not that hard, right? We're not going to die tomorrow. We shouldn't be driving, you know? So if that's a prejudice against foraging. 18. And obviously I'm a very sane person, right? My parents were very proud of me till I left Princeton, and then I just went off the deep end. My grandma, I'm showing her pictures of my, I used to farm too more, and she goes to, I went to the bathroom, and she said to my friend who I brought with me, she goes, "For this, he went to Princeton?" 18, how do you know what you're picking is edible and not? Okay, so that's the question I was answering with 16.
Yeah.
It's the same question. How do you know? Practice. That's all. You just go with someone who knows, and after a while, without even trying, you'll be able to tell. That's all. It's not hard. And I'll tell you, ask anybody else that question who teaches this, they'll give you a stupid usual answer, which is pick up one of those ID books, learn to use an ID book by yourself. That's what dumb, civilized people do. Right? They do things the dumb way because it makes someone else money. 18, we did that. 20, is it safe to touch or smell poisonous mushrooms? Basically, the answer is yes. Now, I take people out, we say, there's only one thing you shouldn't touch. What is it?
Poison ivy.
Yeah, you can touch any mushroom. I don't care if it's deadly. You can lick it. You can smell it. It won't hurt you. You have to swallow it. Okay, so you could taste it and spit it out again. And the ID books will say, taste like this. Because you taste is getting the flavor and spitting it out. But that's not enough to hurt you. Okay? So, a myth that you can't touch them. Done. 20. We've got 6 more. 25. Is there a reason we invented farming? Oh yeah, nice one. So on my website, there's a long book I wrote. It's about 150 pages about this. This is one of, several assumptions of civilization. That farming is
That's
easier.
how it started.
It's not true that farming is necessarily easier, right? And just because it might produce more food and keep more people alive long enough to fight your wars, and get killed, that's different than being healthy. So we may have invented farming and a lot of other things so that, people on the top could have lots of people on the bottom to be basically slave labor, I know that sounds like a conspiracy theory, but being hierarchical is what, happens when you have stores, right? We all shop in the store, right? But you can look in the Old Testament, you can read about how, King of Egypt had, Joseph, help him out with a dream, right? Knowing how much grain to store. That's what storing means. When you store grain, then you need an army to protect that grain. And then if there's a famine, you could sell and basically enslave people because they didn't store stuff and they're starving. So this is where power dynamics are created, right? That's what the state, it's called, that's where it began. And we were citizens. We used to be walls around cities and around, it wasn't to keep people from coming in. It was to keep people from leaving. All right, so that's a long answer, and that probably wasn't enough of one, but I don't think we have time. But you can argue with me, please. If you have any lawyers in the audience, please give me a hard time. Because I've done this 30 years, and it's too easy. Surely we can't all forage. There isn't enough out there. Right, so that's one of the 4 myths in my book, Coming Home, that's online that you can read for free. And it's the 4th one, and it's the one that I've probably least confidence in saying. I said at the beginning, there's enough for everyone. And it's a hard claim to make, but it's in my experience. It's hard for me to believe, based on what I've seen, that there isn't enough. But what I can tell you, have you heard of permaculture? I don't know, regenerative farming and stuff. So when you partner with nature and you grow what is naturalized there, not necessarily what is native. I don't really like this whole native plant thing. You know who popularized that idea? Nazis. Okay, they started native plant movement. So they believe that the things that were here, in the last 500 years, are better than the ones that have come since. That's just like being afraid of migrant crime. It's a myth. Okay. If kudzu takes over here, it's because we weaken the ecosystem to allow it to do it. You don't see kudzu anywhere except as you drive along the highway because it needs sun. There's no sun in the woods. So kudzu is not invasive. You know who's invasive is rhododendron, which is native. Anyway, you all probably know more about this than I do. So I'm going out of my wheelhouse. But I get defensive about it because of this idea that weeds are, non-native. I would certainly argue there would be enough out here if we did permaculture, which isn't just foraging and it isn't just farming. It's a cross between them. But you grow what thrives here already on its own. There's an organic farm in Leicester. The place is covered in stinging nettle. I don't know how many thousand people could live on that stuff. Maybe the most nutritious thing, except for dandelion, you could be eating. And there it is for free. I could show you a photo of it, as far as the eye can see of this stuff. And you tell me there's not enough for everyone?
Can you show us the picture?
Yeah. There's not enough now. There's not enough now with what we're doing. And it's not just because we're farming, it's because we're selfish. It's because we don't share. There's enough food now. You've heard about this, about 90% of food gets thrown away.
Yes.
And they pour milk out on the ground. There it is. Look at that. Doesn't that make you want to scream? That's over here. You can take a 10-minute drive. And in 3 weeks, it's going to look like that.
But it gives you...
Not when you cook it.
No, but what to pick?
So you put gloves on. Yeah, she's not wearing gloves.
She's not wearing...
Yeah.
And you know what? She's not going to get arthritis because she's not wearing gloves. And if you have arthritis, have you heard of this? Have you heard of apitherapy, where you get stung by bees to heal your arthritis? That has the same thing that bees sting you. Acetylcholine, formic acid, serotonin. If your knees hurt, I've done this on a walk. The woman rolled her pants up, took that stuff, stung her arthritis knees, and in 10 minutes, she's like, oh my God, they feel better. Miracle cure, look how much of it there is. Right? And we're killing each other for,
It's
you know.
full of that, yeah.
So that's the kind of abundance we have.
But it doesn't cure.
It's a symptomatic treatment, that's right.
Okay.
I don't know that you're right.
I'm just saying, you know.
I don't know enough like to wonder whether he treats it chronically, like but other things certainly do, you know. Knotweed is another considered noxious weed, invasive, non-native invasives, Japanese knotweed, right? Japonica, I think it's the species. And it does cure
For me, it's sting.
COVID, you know, and no, even more so, Lyme disease. Yeah.
How do you call this?
This is stinging nettle.
Eh?
Stinging nettle.
Stinging.
Yeah,
Question,
right.
how do you reconcile foraging and private property?
Yeah. Well,
How does that work? We just go out and
Well,
forage
if-
wherever the heck we want?
if you forage on private property, it's called poaching. Not all,
Not for the mushroom. You can pick mushroom anywhere.
not in this country. In Europe, yes. There are laws on the book going back hundreds of years called the freedom to roam in Europe, or every man's right is what they call it, and they still exist in some countries, but not in the U.S., where we have what were called the enclosure acts. Well, in Europe, that drove people here, which is private property. We put up fences. It's like, you know, cowboys.
There is no fence.
Right. Even in Europe, even that you can hop the fence. So not all foraging is poaching. All right? So you ask permission. Or you go in public land. And there's different laws depending on state park, national forest, state forest, national park. Each one has their own regulations on whether you can forage. Okay? It's legal in some places, and you need permits in others, and you need permission in others. We could solve that. It's not a big deal. Yeah,
But on the parkway, you cannot pick any flowers.
on the parkway. But you can pick, so it's 1 pound per person per day, per species,
Mushrooms.
is
Yes.
of mushrooms and berries on the parkway.
Yeah. But no,
Okay?
no
I did this
flowers.
15 years. I sold to the Biltmore Estate
No flowers.
hundreds of pounds a year.
I know.
And I sat at 100 different restaurant clients, so I know the laws on it. I was on the state committee that made it legal to sell to restaurants. So I could talk to you about that too, but you probably don't need to be selling your stuff. All right, so I've got, how much more time? Because I have 5 more questions I didn't answer. 26. Oh, we did that. Good. 29. Right, you want to answer this question. Is it really 5 to 50 times? No, it's 5 to 100 times. And you could read the book called Eating on the Wild Side by Joe Robinson. Came out about 5 years ago, okay? Eating on the Wild Side, and it will talk about that. And why is it? Why is that? Because we evolved to eat this stuff. Doesn't that make sense? There's an apple in Kazakhstan, which is where Borat is from. This big. This is the original wild apple. It's very hard, very bitter, full of seeds, and it's 100 times better for you. But what do? We turn it into a bag of sugar, which is soft and bright and red, just like corn, which doesn't exist out in the wild. And that's fine if you want to eat, a few of those for a treat. That's fine, but just don't make that your staple. But that's what we do. We're drug addicted, and to me, those things are all drugs. See? So 29. 31. Only 2 more, including the woozy. Can you really make 300 an hour? Sometimes. I would say conservatively I made 30 an hour regularly, including sales. Half the time spent on sales. Right now I'm getting kids started at the Methodist Church. We're about this month. If anyone knows of a shuttle bus we can use, please talk to me. We're going to take them foraging, and they learn how to forage like a 4-H program. They're going to be making more money than their parents because I was making easily 30 an hour. Huh?
Who do they sell to?
Well, in this case, we're not gonna sell. We're gonna give it to Equal Plates Project, which is cooking 1,000 meals a day right now to feed people, and we're gonna give it to them for free because I've gotten 25,000 in grants and I'm about to get another 50,000 to do this program. So the grants will pay us, and we won't charge them for the food. But if we did, we would make, again, little kids can make easily 30 an hour if we handle the sales for them. And I did make 300 an hour sometimes. I have the picture up there. One mushroom this big, 35 pounds, Warren Wilson campus, $15 a pound. I think I sold $560 in 5 minutes.
What mushroom?
Hen of the woods or maitake.
The hen of the woods, so big?
Yeah. I'll see if I can show you the picture. I didn't want to show a lot of pictures because it just puts people to sleep, and I wanted to keep you engaged.
We like pictures.
I know, but then you turn into a vegetable.
No, I don't.
Okay, Guy in Kenilworth. This is Chicken of the Woods. Guy in Kenilworth called me. Said, I don't know what this is. Chicken of the Woods, not hen. I'll show you hen in a second. I drove away, pulled the card over, one phone call, sold it for, I think, $175.
But they have to be very fresh, huh? Because after it's cardboard.
Young, not fresh, yes.
Yeah.
They have to be young.
Young.
All right, you could look at the warnings that my mom cuts out and sends me.
Oh, that's the, look at that.
Also big, not chicken, not hen, this is Berkeley's polypore. This was a photo shoot with a New York Times photographer who lives here. In fact, he wants to go out with me this weekend for a Princeton Alumni Weekly. This photo didn't get into it. This was an outtake, but it's one of my favorites. All mushrooms are good mushrooms.
No, the taste I'm talking about.
When it's young, yeah, it's quite tasty. It's not as good, still even then, not as tasty as chicken of the woods or hen.
What is that one?
This is Berkeley's polypore. That mushroom, I was carrying it in for the photo shoot, and a guy in a pickup stopped by. He said, "What did he say? That's one bitchin' shroom, man."
Are the bigger mushrooms
Yeah.
tougher or not as tasty as the smaller ones?
And you're about to see. No, not necessarily. So it's not size, it's age. It's another Berkeley's polypore.
Are the bigger ones older? I have no idea.
Look at this. Front yard, North Asheville. $750 for that.
They used to have oak. It's oak, huh?
What is that?
Chicken of the woods.
That's too, okay.
You need. Yes. I think.
So if you get mushrooms in your yard, you send me a photo. I'll tell you what it is, okay? And I used to. You name a restaurant in the last 20 years, I probably sold to them. Any of the most expensive restaurants. That's what I sold.
Tell the difference between the hen in the woods and chicken in the woods.
You'll see they're completely. To me, they're completely different looking.
Yeah, different.
This is in chronological order for the season. That's hen.
That's
Here's hen. You know who that is?
Oh.
Andrew Weil. Yeah.
it's fluffy.
Yeah, because
That is
now I'm wondering what I picked and I cooked it.
owner of the Billmore estate. Yeah.
Was it chicken or was it
Oh,
hen?
look at that. Yeah.
A week and a half after she learned this from me. You know what she's holding? She's probably holding like $800. No, more of like $1,000 right there.
And that's hen of the woods.
Yeah, hen of the
That's
woods.
Well, the ones I picked were orange, bright orange.
Yeah, well, I hope they're chicken, but there are bright orange things that look like chicken that are poisonous. Yeah.
So if you find this stuff in your
I'm still
yard,
here.
Oh, you ate it? Huh? Hold on, you ate yours?
Yeah,
Okay,
it's
great.
delicious. I cooked it in butter and it's delicious.
Great. See? Two crazy people in the room.
Can you recommend some restaurants to take this stuff to sell it, or where do you sell it? Do you go to farmers markets? Yeah.
Yes, you could call. If you go online, you look up my name or you put in Mushrooms Astro or something, you'll track me down. And you can, yes, you could send me photos. You know, any expensive restaurant. They may or may not trust you, but if you tell them, oh, Alan looked at it, or you can call me, then fine. A lot of chefs, they can judge themselves if it's the right thing or not.
Okay.
All right? But a few years ago, a restaurant bought these, I'm about to show you. These are poisonous. The orange poisonous, these.
Yes, they are poisonous.
But people think this is chicken. The guy sold this to the restaurant, said it was chicken in the woods. They almost served it. This won't kill you, it'll make you wish you were dead. But look what it does. It makes you green in the gills. Because it's green in the gills. It glows in the dark. Look up my name, New York Times. I did an article about it in the New York Times. Okay, last one. Speaking of, so we'll do this glowing one, and we'll talk about mushrooms from outer space. So no one knows exactly why they glow. Some things to spread their spores, they think it's that, but to attract insects. But it's dropping spores. Now, do mushrooms come from outer space? They've actually studied how long can those spores survive if they blow up into outer space. And it's called panspermia. And I think it's Francis Crick developed this theory that mushrooms, I don't think he said mushrooms come from outer space, but he says mushrooms could certainly travel through space and go elsewhere. And Francis Crick, I don't know who that is?
What's an incorrect DNA?
That's right. Nobel Prize inventor or whatever, discoverer of DNA.
We have the same DNA than the mushrooms. We have some stuff similar
Yeah,
to mycelium than
it's interesting. Yeah,
DNA.
I've wondered about different ways to consider it. I once used to say sacred geometry and the architecture, so the morphology of animals and plants are very similar. There's a reason the length from here to here and from here to here is a certain length on people. It's the golden mean. There's a reason why we fit into a star, the Da Vinci image. And plants fit in them too. And there's all this cool Da Vinci Code stuff about it. But I don't know if mushrooms obey those proportions. So it'd be cool to study that because they'd be the only living thing, to my knowledge, that doesn't follow the Fibonacci sequence or the golden mean in its morphology. So are they from outer space? I don't know. There's theories that they've actually guided human evolution. Because one of the best things I did in my life was eat a mushroom. You know which kind? Psychedelic mushroom. I'm gonna go back in 2 months. Check in with me. My dad wants to try psychedelic mushroom for the first time at age 84. Psychedelic mushroom. Why? Because he has terrible anxiety.
Can you show me what is psychedelic mushroom?
It will make him fall out of bed for those 6 hours. But after those 6 hours, it might cure his anxiety.
Can you show us the picture of psychedelic mushroom?
I don't think I have that on here.
And it's grown in the wild too? It's like,
Yeah.
No, you don't. It's not on here partly because it just doesn't really grow here. They grow in Mexico, maybe Florida. You can grow them. People grow them. It's not hard to grow. That was the first time, probably out of time, when I first didn't feel afraid. Felt like I could trust people. It was when I tried psychedelic mushrooms. All my life, been afraid of people, afraid of nature. My mom, when I first started foraging, she says to me, Alan, when you go in the woods and you do that scavenging thing, are there bears and homeless people? It's so crazy. Right now, my brothers opened a youth hostel. If you look them up, they're in the news right now. They took in homeless people. All the neighbors are up in arms saying crime is going to happen. How can you bring these terrible people into our... No crime in 4 months has happened. And what irony, I'm helping them fight this thing that comes from fear, that people are, bad people and that they'll steal from you, These are people, one woman's house burned down. She didn't have a place to live. She's trying to get a job. This is a culture of not, foraging, that has led to this kind of fear in our world. This is onion grass. This is out right now, also called garlic grass. Yeah. And people want to eat ramps, but you have this in your yard right now. This is better than ramps in some ways, and everyone has it in their yard. If you make a salt, you chop this up, soak it, let the salt get the flavor. You make an onion salt. I had a blind taste test. People like this onion salt better than ramp onion salt. Of course, it's tougher. All of it. It's tougher than ramps. It's not, soft like a chive. But bet you there's more nutrition because of that toughness.
Will you cook it?
You don't have to for the salt, not for the onion salt. But if I'm going to make food, I cook it. And you put it in late, just like garlic, because garlic will burn if it goes in early. Same with that.
But you cannot put that shop.
Yeah, you can chop it fine.
On
Yeah.
Alan, we went on a trip with the, looking at the solstice markers for the Navajo Indians.
Yeah.
And we were down in Canyon de Chelly, but it was in Canyon del Muerto, the Canyon of the Dead, where David Wilson, our Navajo guide, had a farm down there. We went down there and slept in tents. And he told us that his mother and the family in the winter went down, and that's where he said they picked cleome leaves. And his mother had a great big pot with water, and they would put the cleome leaves in the pot, and then she'd pick the wild onions, and she'd chop those up and put those in the pot. And then the kids would take the cooked cleome leaves, and they would throw them against this rock face that was just ginormous, rock face. And they would put mats down, handmade mats, made of the straw, and they put them down right where the rock face hit the ground. And when the wet cleome would stick to the walls, but when it dried, it would drop down onto these mats, and they would roll up the mats and store them, and that was their winter food all winter. And there was green all along the wall. I mean, they'd done it for so many centuries probably, but they went there every year, and they had fresh. And she would just reconstitute it with water. It was just dried spinach, basically.
What a trip. Isn't that funny?
Yeah. It was delicious.
Really necessity is the mother of invention. I went to Bass Pro Shops to dehydrate stuff. I bought a $150 dehydrator because I can't throw fresh fruit against the wall. But this is the kind of ingenuity, right, that happens when
My
you don't.
great-grandmother used to put on the roof fruit to
Yeah.
dry.
Yeah. You can put it in your car, right, with the window a little bit rolled down and dehydrate stuff. But you usually don't want the sun hitting it directly, so you put it in a paper bag, open paper bag. Yeah. It's all kinds of ways to do stuff.
Yeah.
And it's more fun. Somebody asked me, oh yeah, yesterday I got home, my neighbor has a gun collector, showed me all his new guns. I mean, total Trump flags and everything. But I have a great time with him, despite our, political differences. And I said, he's got AK-47, everything you can ask for, AR-15, like he showed me a Glock, like a Magnum 4. And I go to him, do you ever hunt? And he's like, why would I hunt? There's Ingles down the road. I call that the tyranny of convenience. Yeah. The other neighbors have kids, and I was up in their tree getting cherries. One of the most psychedelic experiences I ever had. Not on drugs. Go up in a cherry tree. You ever been with bright red cherries everywhere? It's wonderful. Kids walk by, they're like, what are you doing? And I said, I'm getting cherries. And they were like, huh? Like, little kids, because their parents buy, why should they? They buy them for $1.50 a thing from Mexico. Why would they don't pick cherries. It's sad. Yeah.
If anybody wants any black walnuts, I'd be glad to share mine with you.
You hear that? Black walnuts for
Why
free.
did you pick cherry? Because the cherry are not ripe right now.
Yeah, you have to pick up your own.
No, they're not there anymore. But
Oh, okay.
yeah, but it would be like June or July. Yeah. All right, so I'm going to put up my company name again so you can find it. Oh, and listen, you can send anyone you want. They can come. You could come on this for free. All right? We don't turn anyone away. If you want to pay tourist prices, it would be nice because our tourism market just collapsed after Helene. Our business is down 90%. But anyone who's poor, can come for free. They just text us and we'll give them a code or email us.
And you take people foraging?
Yeah, all the time. And, you all could, come up with a day and we could take you out.
That would be fun.
I have a plan to go in July, if anybody wants to come with me on a Saturday in July. Talk to me.
They're pretty organized,
Yeah. Are we good? How's our time?
Oh, we're running out of time. We're ready.
What does that mean? Am I overtime yet? Or?
No.
Oh, I'm good? 5 minutes?
Oh, yeah, that's fine.
All right, you want a poem?
Yes.
Okay. This is Mushrooms by Mary Oliver. Sound good? Let's leave that on just in case you... Ugh, it's so ugly though. I hope it turns off. All right, I'm over here. Rain. And then the cool pursed lips of... Electronics. The cool pursed lips of the wind draw them from the ground. Red and yellow skulls pummeling upwards through leaves, through grasses, through sand. Astonishing in their suddenness, their quietude, their wetness. They appear on the earth on one hoof, some packed with poison. Others billowing chunkily and delicious. Those who know go out to gather, choosing the benign from flocks of glitterers, sorcerers, russulas, panther caps, shark white death angels in their torn veils, looking innocent as sugar, but full of paralysis. To eat is to stagger down as fast as the mushrooms themselves when they are done being perfect, and overnight slide back under the shining fields of rain. You earned it. Look at this.
Oh my gosh. What is that?
This is the mushroom that makes mocha coffee or ice cream. If you've heard anyone saying they're eating mushroom, drinking mushroom coffee, it's probably in it. It's called chaga. Chaga is a Russian name, but it grows here. You grind this up. You grind it up, and it grows right here. And you make coffee. You just simmer it. Looks just like coffee. It tastes like mocha. Yeah.
So you found that piece?
My friend,
Western
a friend
fancy?
found this, and you have to go high, like in Wolf Laurel. I used to go for this. And now I get mine from Michigan. Like if you know anyone up north, there's tons of it there. There's not much of it here, because we're low latitude. They have loads of it up there, and in Siberia.
Leathers.
Huh?
Leathers. That you see on the rocks when you're going hiking.
Yes, I call those rock tripe. The lichen, is that what
you
you
have to
do?
boil them?
Yes, they have an acid that's poisonous, but it easily boils out. The Franklin expedition in the Northwest, the worst naval disaster, 180 people died. He survived an earlier expedition eating that rock tripe. And when they ran out of that, they ate their boots. But they wouldn't eat walrus blubber and liver that the Inuit were offering them. They're like, oh no, that's disgusting. Instead, you know what they ate instead? Each other. They ate each other. And Charles Dickens didn't believe it. He said that's a lie. But when they looked at the cut marks on the bones, it was obvious that's how far we go, because we don't trust, right? Indigenous people. Yeah. But I love that stuff, and they call it survival food. But you could get a lot of that. But you don't want to pick a lot of lichens off the rocks. They grow like 1 inch every 50 or 100 years.
Yeah, I always feel bad. These are leathers. They're like a sheet.
Yeah, let me show you a picture. Let's see if this is what you are talking about. Come on. Let's hope it comes up. I'm doing a search. It's not going to be in this slideshow because it's not the first thing everyone asks about. Here comes one image. Okay,
There they are.
is that good?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. So
I
here's,
don't need that.
We decided that we'd only eat those if we were absolutely at our wits' end.
yeah, this is what they go through in Japan to get these. Can you imagine? Off the side of a cliff. That's how much they love this stuff. You can get it by the garbage can here.
Is it good?
I love it. It doesn't have a lot of flavor, but it has a cool, chewy consistency.
Yes,
And
yes.
what I do is I use it instead of nori to wrap, to do sushi wraps.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it has like a pasta feel. Of course, it's black, or green or brown, depending on the
So
color.
you take off the yellow stuff?
No, that's just. This is a bad picture. That's just a thin layer of the color. Come on, try. Let me mirror these. This might make it easier for me to find you stuff. Pull this down. I've got my photos in like 3 different places. Any other questions while I look?
No, I don't know what they are.
Do you have a
They're
favorite
not mushrooms,
book
are they? They're not
to
considered.
recommend for
What are they considered?
Well, my
foraging or books?
no, I mean I'm sort of an anti-books. To tell you the truth, learn from people, not books. Yeah.
We've only said.
Any other questions? All right, here's a good picture.
There they are. Yeah. They're kind of rubbery.
Look, this woman is kept in touch. She's in Myrtle Beach. She says, my biggest regret in life is that I didn't move to Asheville and study with you. But she has children, and she's teaching her children as much as she can. Still keeps in touch. 15 years? Look, 2012. That's how long she's kept in touch. Yeah, reishi. See how long it took me to identify this from across the room? Anyone can do that. Child can do that. So don't try to get a book and learn yourself. It doesn't have to be me.
I had the book.
We have a club with hundreds of members. Not everyone who thinks they're an expert is, but that's reishi. You could probably see it from the back. Gorgeous. Ganoderma means shiny skin.
Yeah.
One of the most medicinal things in the world.
Oh, really?
When I told that story about the mothballs, this is the mushroom that had been growing on their tree. And I think they brought me to look at a different mushroom. It was gone, and I saw that this one had been died on the tree. And they said, yeah, we treated the tree because this mushroom was killing it.
Yeah.
But it's not true. This mushroom comes in once the tree's already dying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's called the mushroom of immortality.
You eat that mushroom?
Oh yeah, only about 300 years, so I don't know if it works yet. Yeah.
You cook it.
You cook that and you drink the water.
Oh.
Okay, it's just like these. Okay. This one I'm holding, a guy named Otzi, who was buried in the Italian Alps 5,300 years ago. He was carrying this. And it's a medicinal mushroom. And they think it's maybe the first recorded instance of herbal medicine in the world. Aside, maybe Chinese have some recorded stuff almost that old. But all these hard things that aren't edible, that look like you would never want to eat this, like root beer. Cut it up, you simmer it. Or you throw it in whole. I mean, this isn't that hard to cut, even though it feels hard. Yeah. This one smells like maple syrup. It doesn't quite taste like it. I know a guy said, I served this to a bunch of businessmen and they were tripping. It's not supposed to be psychedelic. So I gave you a poem, answered your questions, weirded you out. What else can I do?
Back to you, Alan.
All right, bring it on.
I had a question. Have you any experience in growing truffles?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked. Truffles don't have to necessarily be grown. I have experience with wild truffles. In fact, I popularized a truffle that was so rare it had no name. I named it the Blue Ridge truffle. And you can look up CNN and my name, and it's on CNN about it.
Are they good?
Well, I sell them for $1,000 a pound. So whoever pays that thinks they're good. And So that truffle is out, and it's out. Could be out right now. It's a little bit late. It's generally the winter time. So don't bother trying to grow what doesn't grow here naturally, which is what the black truffle, Perigord, the white truffle, a whole dozen that people try to grow here that are from Europe. And, there's some success in Argentina and other countries, but there's no point fighting the tide when you can try growing the stuff that is natural here and is just as good, if not better. So Katie Button has tried this one that I'm talking about. She said that's exactly a quote from her. This could be better than anything you could buy. I've sold it up in New York to Four Seasons, and I don't do it anymore. I mean, I taught a couple, they were in the Washington Post last month, saying they're making $200,000 a year on this, which I taught them where to find it, and I'm not doing it.
Do they grow exactly like the normal truffle?
No.
Like oak and no grass around?
I'd have to trust you, or you'd have to pay me a lot of money to answer that question.
I think I know more about truffle than
All right. Yeah. So, yes and no. There was another question back there, wasn't there? Something about storing, I think.
Yes,
Yeah.
we were curious, what do you do? I mean, do you have a place in your home? Or, not,
Yes.
you know,
Pantry.
a place to keep your foraging?
You mean store my food once it's
Yeah.
preserved?
And,
yes.
or these,
Mm-hmm.
items that,
Yeah, sure. I mean, you sometimes bugs can get into things that you've dried, and I have, I think, 4 freezers at this point.
oh wow.
Because I got 350 pounds of Alaskan salmon after the flood for dirt cheap. It's now occupy an entire chest freezer that I have. But I have my roadkill, like deer, bear, all that stuff in another freezer. Yeah. And one time I had a guy who had a TV show in England. What's his name? But he came. I opened up the freezer, and he said I looked like I had the whole cast of Beatrix Potter in there. No, the guy, just the moaning of life. Yeah, it's not occurred to me. But any other questions? This is the tribe, a still from that movie. That's quite funny if you want to watch The Gods Must Be Crazy. Yes.
I couldn't find that. That's one of my favorite movies.
Yeah.
And I had a really hard time finding it online. I don't think I ever did. Is it?
I have the whole thing. I downloaded it. I could send it to you.
Ooh, that'd be good.
The gods must be crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, they got Mr. Crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, it's hilarious.
Yeah.
One of the questions had to do
Yeah.
with resources, and we didn't number 5 or something, apps and books and so on.
Yeah.
As a novice or an average person,
Yeah.
aren't those something to have?
Well, I'm hesitant to answer. I was asked earlier. You may not have overheard. What books do you recommend?
Right.
And my simple answer is none, because books and apps and stuff are a good supplement. They're not a good substitute. And they're dangerous in that sense that you think, I can just get a book or an app and I don't need a human being. But those aren't field guides. A field guide is a person who guides you in the field. A field guide has two legs. So find a person. Don't just buy a book. Believe me, you will waste hours and hours. How many of you have tried to identify a plant or a flower with these keys and stuff? When you could send a photo to a botanist, like she showed me that reishi, and in 2 seconds they'll tell you what it is. So unless you enjoy doing that, don't waste your time with books. If you're wanting them to ID things. I mean, there's books I enjoy, because they're entertaining. Sure, I can tell you about those. There's some that are cookbooks, if you want recipes for wild foods. But to identify things, that's just going in really the wrong direction. You don't need it.
You have to go with somebody who knows.
Yes.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to cost you. You can go with us for free if you want. You can go to join the Mushroom Club for $25 a year, and you can go on all their forays. It's called Foray, which is like forage. Yeah. Here's one of our
What
algae.
does mean?
Hmm?
What does that slide mean? Those who eat it are stupid, those who don't eat it are stupid.
Someone tell her what it
Is
means.
this poisonous?
No, this is not fugu. Fugu is blowfish. Okay?
Oh.
You have to take, like, I think the stinger out of the blowfish or it'll kill the person who eats
Right.
it. And you have to know you have to do it carefully. And so there's an expression in Japan that, boy, why would you eat a fish like that and risk your life? That would be stupid, right? Well, it says it's stupid to eat it and it's stupid not to. And this mushroom is a mushroom that can also kill you. And people still eat it. And no one knows how many can kill you. You can eat a few, but everyone has a different tolerance. It's called the false morel. It has gyromitrin, which converts in your body to monomethylhydrazine, which is rocket fuel. All right, so do you understand what this means? There's another expression. It says, a ship in the port is safe, but that's not what ships are made for.
Yeah, that's right.
You see?
Yeah.
So everything in life has a risk. You're going to drive away right now and risk your life because you came to this talk.
Yeah.
And wasn't this talk worth risking your life to come?
Thank you so
All right.
much.
You're welcome. Come on, if you have questions, just come up.
Yeah.